Good morning, children. Today I will be taking up the topic environment. In my last lecture, I already told you about environment and other things. This is lecture 2 of the same topic. Here I am going to again discuss about some things where I left. First is what happens when we add something to environment. Now this is a question I am starting with. The answer comes when we add something to the environment, it can cause pollution. What is pollution? Now, pollution is the disturbance in environment when any foreign substance is added to the environment. Now it comes up to be the air pollution, then water pollution and soil pollution. As we know that we live in the world, and the world consists of, the earth consists of biosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere. Lithosphere mostly is of soil, and atmosphere is made up of air, and hydrosphere is made up of water. In all these parts, organisms are found. And as man has developed and is making new things, those can be harming to the environment because we consume a lot but we also waste a lot, and afterwards what happens is whatever we leave out or we left out, those things go back into the environment. Sometimes they are degradable, sometimes they are non-degradable. Now what is this degradable and non-degradable? Just now I talked about what happens when we add something to the environment. Now that something is the usable substances that we are using. As man has made a lot of progress, the progress has come at a cost that is known as to be pollution. So all the world is actually thinking about what is pollution, and we are doing a lot of steps. In 1971, afterwards, at Stockholm, 1972, there was a congress, a seminar. All the world came together to think about what to do. And then regularly there have been environmental seminars which are being conducted. There are gatherings where the world leaders come together to find out the ways how to cope up with the pollution. Now the largest pollution which we are facing, or the deadest of them, is the non-biodegradable pollution. Non-biodegradable. Substances have been actually divided into non-biodegradable and biodegradable. Children, just now I told you that when we add something to the environment, so as humans progressed, there was a need for finding out something which lasts for a long, and that is helping them out in packaging, etc. Polythene, etc., which have been coming to the man-made things, are not naturally actually degraded. Now, what are bio non? First, we are going to discuss about the biodegradable, as we should know about what happens to the body of a man, what happens the body of all the organisms. Suppose we are actually taking our bodies to the crematoriums, etc., and there we are putting them to their last rites. But what to the bodies of the other organisms? What happens in the forest? So the substances are degraded. Now, how they are degraded? So there are substances which are biodegradable. Bio, we are going to break the word into biodegradable. Now here when we talk bio, it means living, and degradable means again I am going to divide. Degradable, it means that it can be gradually broken down. Degrade, which can be broken down into substances. So this means broken down. So the substances, the definition comes: substances that can be broken down by enzymes, microorganisms, or organisms. Now here I have used a term enzymes. Now what are these enzymes? Now children, I should tell you one thing. Enzymes are the substances. Enzymes are biochemicals. Now biochemicals means that act as catalyst to break a substance. Mostly it is an organic substance. When we talk about organic, we are talking about the substances which are made by organisms. So the substances which are made by the organisms, they can be broken down. Now I hope that you would have understood in the long duration as man has been on earth, things have been broken down, and they have been broken down by the help of the enzymes. Enzymes are the biocatalyst. Enzymes, I am repeating it, enzymes are biocatalyst which help in the breaking down of chemicals, biochemicals or organic substances. But these chemicals are produced by organisms only, and they help in the metabolic reactions. Secondly, these enzymes are catalyst, and catalysts are the substances which do not get up used in the reaction. They can be again after the reaction we can take them up as they are not harmed, they are not used up in their original form. Now coming to the biodegradable substances, examples I am going to take up. The examples are paper, wood, silk, cloth, cotton cloth. Now these all are the examples of biodegradable, or you can say meat, okay, and leaves of a tree. So whatever is actually made by the nature comes under biodegradable. And those bacteria and earthworms, etc., some beetles, they help in their degradation. Their process you are going to study more in your higher classes. Now we come up to the non-biodegradable. Now this is the cause of greater pollution which we are facing. Now non-biodegradable substances are artificial, man-made substances that cannot be degraded or decomposed or broken into simpler forms. Example is polythene. Now, polythene is made up of ethene that we will talk more about in your chemistry class. Polythene, then styrene, nylon. Now these are the cloths which are being used: polystyrene, polyester. Now mostly we use them as cloth also for wearing. They are not actually biodegradable. Then iron nail also we talk about. Then comes your plastic, various kind of plastics. Thermostable plastics are there, non-thermostable plastics are there. Thermostable means which can actually resist the heat. Then diskette, floppies of computer, your mobile phone. This all come under the non-biodegradable substances. So children, just now you have seen that what is biodegradable and non-biodegradable. And the question asked is the difference between the biodegradable and non-biodegradable, and to categorize the items into biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Why the things should be biodegradable? Because otherwise they will not be decomposed, and so they will be a concern for their storage. They will occupy a large space, and when they become the waste, we don't need them. So where to dump them? That is also a big problem. So mostly what we do is from the earlier ages, the people used to take the substances which were useful to a certain place in the storehouses, but which were not used were thrown out of the houses in the dumps, open dumps, sometimes in the pits. Now what happens is when it is in the open dump, so it is going to be spread to the places, become the spoils, and it can ruin the aesthetic beauty, like the polythene. When people throw it out of the trains, buses, in the forest, you can see lots and lots of polythene being sprayed here and there, and sometimes people take food in it as a packaging material, and the food which is stuck to that calls the wild animals eat them and they get killed. Because polythene is non-biodegradable and is non-digestible, so it kills the organisms. So that is a grave problem for us. We need to think about it. Now comes about the next thing we are talking about, that is, I just now talked about that the organisms they eat and the biodegradable, non-biodegradable substances go to them. Now coming to the movement of the food, like how food goes. Already we talked about, I told you that sun is the source of radiant energy. After that, it goes to the plants. We talked about that in my last lecture. These are the green plants. Sometimes in the water there is blue-green area, cyanobacteria. They are the largest producers in the sea. Then the food is passed on to the consumer, first consumer, which are herbivores. Then it goes to the second consumer. Now this is eaten. They photosynthesize food. Now consumer, first consumer, they can be carnivore, that is primary carnivore or primary consumer. Then there is, this is secondary, primary carnivore, and the consumer is secondary consumer. This is primary consumer. Then comes your secondary carnivore. As you see, there is a chain, and the chain is there where the energy is passing from the sun. 1 to 2% energy is passed to the plants. By the photosynthesis, plants prepare the food. Then this food goes into the herbivore, and then it goes to the second consumer, then to the third consumer, then to the fourth. But not more than that. Why this happens, that we are going to discuss, and it has been talked about and studied by a lot of people. Now, children, first we are going to talk about how this happens. A thermodynamic law has been studied about, people have studied about this, and they have found that there is transfer of biomass, food chain. In food chain, there is an interaction between the organisms. Transfer of energy and biomass takes place. What is biomass? Biomass is the product, organic product that is produced by the organisms inside the body. In food chain, transfer of energy and biomass takes place. Now, how it takes place? As you see here, how we can represent it. Now, it can be represented by the help of a ecological pyramid. Now, this pyramid, when we have drawn this pyramid, you see, so there are producers which produce the food, then these are the consumer, first consumer, then second consumer, then the tertiary consumer, third consumer. So you see the movement of energy is from the producers. Same thing we have represented in a pyramidal form. So as we go up, the number of organisms will become less. Now this is representing a trophic level. Now what is a trophic level? The different steps of the food chain represent a trophic level. Now here I am going to write different levels of food chain called trophic level, and they have a number of organisms in them. Like producers will have green plants, producers, these are producers. Consumers, herbivores, they have goats, cattle. Now comes your consumer, deer also is there, rabbit is there, rabbit is omnivore. Then comes your second consumer where jackal, wolf, and then in primary consumer mostly there are tertiary carnivore, tiger, lion, vulture, hawk can be there. Now there are different types of food chain which are found in the world, and accordingly the organisms are put. Sometimes there can be in grassland food chain, there can be grasses and grasshopper, then frogs can be there, and sparrows can be also there, then vultures come, eagles come. So this is how the food chain is made. I talked about that in my earlier lecture also. Now coming to the second thing we will be discussing here is how these all interact with each other. How producer, now interaction of producer, consumer takes place in environment. So the answer already being answered by the food chain. It is by food chain. But there cannot be one food chain present. So organisms there are divided like grass, grasshopper. Then grasshopper is being eaten by the frog or by a sparrow, and it can be eaten by eagle, it can be eaten by a snake, and the snake can again be eaten by a hawk, it can be eaten by peacock. So you see there easily at one trophic level the things are changing, but the producer is same. So there are only a single producer, but other organisms they can change. There can be a caterpillar larva, it can be eaten by a sparrow. So easily we are seeing that things are being changed. In the forest ecosystem, if you go, deer comes, then tiger comes. So, but the grasses are same. Now deer, then comes your tiger. Okay. So this is known as to be a by food chain, and food chain, many food chain linked together or branched called food web. So children, I just told you how to design a food web. You can yourself design it. Only the thing is that you should know about the herbivores. Like these are the herbivores, and this deer is a herbivore, and it can fit into it. Now we will be seeing a larger perspective here, and the larger perspective is going to be represented in the food chain. How the passage of the energy and the food takes place. That we are going to now study. And it has been done by a number of scientists and ecologists, and they came to a conclusion that now what they have concluded, the scientists have concluded that in a food chain, energy passage is unidirectional. Unidirectional means it goes from producer to consumer. So energy is always passed from a producer to the consumer only. It cannot go back. And about 1 to 2% of solar energy used by the producers. Now we are actually discussing the things in the ecological pyramid. There are two pyramids. One is your going to be the food chain, and other is going to be the energy one. Biomass and energy we are going to discuss. Now energy passage is unidirectional. Second part is that only 10% of biomass is there available for next trophic level. It means that from the producer to the consumer, If we say this is a consumer, number one, that is herbivore, then we go to the second one. Suppose we are putting like this is carnivore, carnivore. So the first trophic level, this is the first trophic level, this is the second trophic level, third trophic level, and fourth trophic level. So very little energy is available at the top. That is one thing which have been found out. And second thing is only 10% of the biomass, 10%, 10%, 10% is available. So it says that only 10% of the things are being used up and they build the body of an organism. Only 10% is now available. Now where other things go? So this is also a question. Now comes our next question is a lot of energy is wasted, a lot of energy is consumed, rather we should say, to do work in form of respiration, digestion of food, and lost in form of heat. So children, here the question is why less energy. Now question comes, why less energy available at last trophic level? The answer will come from here. A lot of energy is consumed to do work in the form of respiration, digestion, growth, movement, that I have not taken here many things, but it is, and also is lost in the form of heat. So we also lose energy in the form of the heat to the atmosphere. So that comes under thermodynamics, that you can learn in the higher classes. Thermodynamics is a science which actually deals with the interaction of the organism with the environment in form of heat losses or heat gain. So in higher classes, the biology in relation to the physics will become bioenergetics, and bio, it is also taught in MSc level or in BSc level. It is very important, and in research level it is also being taught. Now just now I told you about this. Now 10% only is available. Now children, let me discuss about, uh, we should see the character of a food chain will also represent more organism at lower trophic levels. Means producer are more compared to consumers. Now this is an important case. But in case of the C is exception. Here producer are less and consumer more. Apart from that, in the land we always will find that there are more than. And another thing is A single species can occupy two or more trophic levels, as in the case of example is sparrow. Sparrow is the example, bear can be an example. Omnivores are mostly can occupy two or more trophic levels. So children, we have discussed the number of characters of the food chain. So I am ending it here only. Now another interesting fact of the food chain is the availability of energy that already I have discussed. Energy passes from the lower to the higher trophic levels, and never it is going to be from the upper to the lower trophic levels. So the question that I was discussing, and that is an interesting fact, is why a few number of tigers are found in the forest? Because the availability of the biomass is less. That is why, and also the energy is less. So that is the fact why the number of the carnivores highest degree is less. Now we have to come to another thing is what happens to the body? What happens to organisms when they die? Now, if they are going to be kept as it is and nobody is there to cremate them, then they will decompose and get back into soil or soil in form of nutrients and minerals. Now, how this takes place? How it takes place? So we already discussed about here by the work of decomposers. What are these decomposers? Decomposers break organic things and replenish them back to environment. So the decomposers are having a very important place here. The decomposers can be as smaller as bacteria, fungi, etc. So the by work of the decomposers break. Now I will full stop here. The decomposers, they break organic things and replenish them back into the environment or the soil. So decomposers are also, but they are not given a place in the food chain because a food chain starts with the producers. Now children, at the last topic I am discussing here, how do our activities affect the environment? The question is how our activities affect the environment. Now here I will tell you one thing, as there are industries all over, industries are there, and on the roads you would have seen the automobiles running there and the exhaust is going. and the humans are moving. They are releasing gases in form of CO2. The plants are there, plants take up CO2, but how much they can also take. So there are CO, SO2, the gases are there. Then we are applying the bleaching powder. It releases Cl2. Then refrigeration is there, refrigerators are there. They are releasing CFC by refrigerator that we are using at the homes. So these gases are going to the atmosphere. Now this is your atmosphere. The atmosphere is made up of different layers, and one layer is the stratosphere. Stratosphere actually saves us from the UV rays. So already we discussed the how activities affect. So when we release CO2, CO, SO2, H2S, CFCs to the atmosphere, they cause air pollution. Now here we will be discussing about and the garbage we release. Garbage released by us causes soil or land pollution. Pesticide, chemicals from factories released cause water pollution. Children, the chemicals which are released, they also go to the sea, they also go to the aquatic bodies, and they harm the fishes there, and they are killed. The garbage, the polythene, etc., which we are actually throwing on the land, even the biodegradable things which we throw, they can cause bacterial infections, and they can cause bad smell, foul smell. They take some time for their decomposition, but at that time they can cause pollution. So biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable substances, they cause the pollution. The intensity of the non-biodegradable is more, and the polythene, it has been discovered that in only 300 years to 200 years it can be decomposed. So it will take a number of years, and it is almost non-biodegradable. Now coming to the most important thing here is this air pollution. In air pollution, the chlorofluorocarbons, SO2, CO2, methane, CH4, methane, they also cause a number of effects on the environment. Now, how they do so? So, here I am going to take a case study of ozone depletion. Now, first is stratosphere layer of atmosphere is made of ozone gas. It is known as to be O3. It protects us from UV harmful radiations. Now UV is ultraviolet rays. If they come on earth, they skin cancer, delay in flowering in plants, then cataract, snow blindness, and other genetical diseases. So we need the layer present on the atmosphere, that is stratosphere, made up of O3, saves us. Now how this O3 is made? This is made like this. And UV radiations, if are going to come on Earth, they are being blocked. They are blocked by the UV rays. But chlorine, Cl2, when it goes Cl, this is a radical, minus minus, it goes up and it mixes up with the oxygen, it forms ClO3 and the ozone breaks. When the ozone breaks, it can come to the earth then. So definitely children, it can cause a lot of harm. So ozone is very important for us, not only for us but also for the plants. Otherwise the flowering is not going to take place and the fruits will not be formed. Now coming to ozone formation. Ozone is formed by following steps. First, O2 is broken by UV itself into O plus O. Then O plus O2, they combine. This is combination reaction. This is breaking. First step is breaking of O2, combination of O2, then it forms O3. So this is how the ozone is formed in the atmosphere. First of all, the oxygen is broken, and then into radical form, free radical, then it is going to combine with O2 and form O3. So this is how ozone is formed. Now, what steps should be taken now? If ozone layer is broken due to release of high CFC, if ozone layer is broken due to release of CFC or chlorofluorocarbon and their reaction with O3, it is called ozone depletion. So when the ozone is depleted, means it becomes less in content, that will make an ozone hole. It can create holes in stratosphere layers of the earth and allow the UV rays to come on earth. So we have already discussed about the harmful effects of it, and lastly I will talk about how we can control it. So you can write this also. I will come to how we can control ozone depletion. The answer lies is UNEP, United Nations Environment Program has stated that if CFC release is brought to 1987 level, we can control ozone depletion. So it is reduction of CFC as refrigerant and other uses, or it's altogether stopping the use of it as refrigerant. So this may cause the control of ozone depletion, because man has to keep the substances, he has to keep the resources for its future use, so there is no other way. So refrigerants have to be there, but we need to have some compatible refrigerants. Now the last question comes there. We discussed about the ozone depletion, so it ends here about ozone depletion. Now the last topic I will be discussing it, how we should manage our garbage. How we need to dispose the garbage we produce. Now the answer can be, the question answer can be first by separating into biodegradable, recyclable, repurpose and non-biodegradable substances. Then we can easily dispose them. We can make separate bins. Some of them can go for recycling, some can go for repurposing, then some can go for biodegradable. So this can make a manures, this can go for making packets, this can also be used as recycled plastics. Repurpose means the same material can be used for another thing, like the broken bins, etc., trucks, etc., can be filled with the soil and manure and can be used as for plantations. So these things are there. So we need to separate them first, then dispose separately, and to produce less waste. Now we need to control our habits, change them. So this is all about your environment chapter, children. So I am ending it here. So again we are going to meet for our next topic, that is the management of natural resources. Thank you, children. Hope you would have understood what I have told you. If you go through it 2-3 times, definitely you will be able to understand the whole chapter. Thank you.